My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the Faith and Fishing Podcast, where every episode I'll bring you an interview with a member of the fishing community, and they'll be sharing their faith stories and fishing memories with you. I'm your host, Cam Steele. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. We've got an awesome episode for you this week, and I really don't have any housekeeping things to go over with you other than I've finally gotten over the cough. Y'all know I've been dealing with a cough since Father's Day, and it is all but gone. And I think as long as I don't laugh too much, we should be good to go. So hopefully you won't have to listen to any more of that. And so with not a lot else to say in terms of housekeeping things, let's get our guest introduced, and we will do that right after this. Atollas, based out of Charleston, South Carolina, is an eyewear accessory and gear company focused on enhancing your time on the water. Their floating sunglass retainers are the most technically advanced around. Over 5 years of engineering, testing, and exhaustive feedback from paddlers, anglers, and watermen have resulted in a patented design in a class of its own. They're incredibly light and comfortable, built for durability, sport a sleek, minimal design, float virtually all brands and models of sunglasses, and they're backed for life. So if you break them, Atollas will replace them. No questions asked. Whether you're fishing, kayaking, or boating, Atollas will save your shades from the dream. Head on over to atollas.co to check out their gear and use promo code faithnfish15, that's faith the letter N, fish the number 1, 5, at checkout to save 15% on your order. Whether you're a Ned Rig vet or a finesse fishing noob like me, Jade's Jigs is your source for high quality finesse jigs that raise the bar by being lead free. Using a tin bismuth alloy not only makes Jade's Jigs eco-friendly, it also makes the jig lighter so you get the same profile with less weight for the fish to feel. Check out jadesjigs.com, that's JADESJIGS.com, to see their full lineup of jigs, styles, and colors. And since you're a Faith and Fishing listener, you can save 10% on your order by using promo code FNF10 at checkout. All right, recently a video went viral of a hero saving a kid, a 6-year-old kid from the water. As a dad, I still get shivers from some of the parts of that video. But this week on the Faith and Fishing Podcast, we're going to be talking with DJ Jones. He is the hero from that video, about his experience there and about his content, because he's been creating hunting and fishing content for quite a while now. So let's get DJ in here. If I can get my cursor over there. DJ, man, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on the Faith and Fishing Podcast. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. So to get us started, kind of tell us who DJ Jones is.
Well, I like to think of myself as just a regular guy. 28, got 2 kids. My oldest youngin is Colton. He'll be 6 next month on the 22nd. My youngest child is my daughter Mila. She'll be 3 on the 5th. Love to hunt, love to fish. Have a beautiful girlfriend, beautiful relationship with her. Born and raised Jacksonville, Florida. Migrated up to Minnesota. I went to college back in 2012, where educationally, I earned my degree in law enforcement from Fond du Lac Tribal Community College, while I also got my Associate of Arts degree. Played football and baseball while I was there. I attended University of Minnesota Duluth. My major was criminology. My minor was environmental science, and I've had experiences on and off in law enforcement. Right now, working in the medical field at Essentia Health up in Duluth. I work in the emergency department primarily, and I just love to hunt, just love to fish, and love to share my experiences while I go out hunting and fishing to other people in hopes of getting more people into the outdoors. Doesn't matter, your faith, your color, your age, your size, just getting as much people as I can out, hunting, out fishing, so we can continue to have our hunting and fishing rights, and just ensuring that next generation, getting out there and not being so caught up in technology and other things like drugs or violence or gang activity, anything like that, but just getting them hunting, just getting them fishing, so that way they can have that experience and that side of life, and hopefully they can teach it on to their kids and continue in that process.
Absolutely. And so tell us about D Jones Outdoors. That's kind of your brand. I know I've watched a few of your YouTube videos getting prepared for this. And I'm going to be watching a lot more of them. But yeah, tell us about your brand, how it got started, why it got started, and what's been going on with that.
So originally, I come from a family of, outdoors men and women, and I like to say that with pride because my great grandma had 7 kids. She had 5 boys and 2 girls. So all of them can hunt, fish, cook, garden, the whole shebang, like that. Like that's what they grew up doing. So for me, it's like it was weird to grow up in Florida and to talk to somebody and they didn't know how to hunt, they didn't know how to fish, because that was the thing that everybody did. That's what we all do, and that's all I had ever known. With going to school and having something to talk about what happened at the hunting club that prior weekend, or going to school and getting done and dad's taking you to a pond, help you try to catch a catfish or a bass or something like that. And for me it was like that. Going to a majority white school growing up, there was only literally like 15, 20 black kids, but I was always the kid who got attention because I was the black guy who hunted and fished. And my dad was more known throughout the town and the county, for him being really, really great at bow hunting. And one of the most popular taxidermists had always displayed, my dad's, I call them scrub bucks, his scrub bucks on the wall in the taxidermy shop. So my dad, had the moniker, the street moniker, Country Time, because, he was very avid bow hunter. He was out there for meat. It was, it was made very well known that he was out for meat. He's got a couple wall hangers up on the wall, but to me, he started that passion being when it came down to bow hunting. I really, really, really loved growing up. I love deer dog hunting down south, in southeast Georgia, northeast Florida. That was probably my favorite style of hunting. But, as I got older and started realizing, how much fun it was to bow hunt and get in close and to get within that effective range and try to, fool, a whitetail deer senses, which is probably one of the hardest things you could ever do out in the whitetail woods. You're coming into their environment and you're trying to fool them enough to get a shot off with a bow or, muzzleloader, shotgun, rifle, etc., whatever you have that's illegal to hunt within your state. And that's what I grew up doing. As I got older, I always played football, always played basketball, always played those types of sports and stuff growing up. And it was always fun, like looking forward to fall because it was football season and it was hunting season. And as I got into high school, I became very popular amongst a couple of the other kids, outside of our school for hunting and for fishing, because, this was back when Instagram really started, like popping off back in 2011, 2012. And we were taking pictures of each other while we were going out, pond hopping throughout Jacksonville, Florida. And, we may or may not committed a couple felonies by trespassing. And, it was all worth it, in my opinion, just to go out and have that option of catching the biggest fish you've ever caught in your life in Florida at night on a place that you shouldn't even be. So we were sneaking into golf courses, we were hotel ponds. If you had a body of water, that was unfenced, and we could park and pull up those Chevrolet trucks or Toyota trucks or Ford trucks that we could get into, and we'd all hop out and try to fish. And I had the idea of tracking those adventures, but I never really put 2 and 2 together that I could have created an Instagram page to do that. So I was doing most of that stuff on what I had was my personal page at that time. And I had one of those guys that I grew up with was like, man, you just need to make a page like strictly for hunting and fishing, like strictly for that. And I was like, you know what, like, that's a great idea. And they had started calling me, around town, because a lot of these guys knew that I could hunt. Like they didn't know that I could bass fish as well as I wanted to be, or at least as good as I thought I was back then. So they started calling me Black Bill. And then one night we're out fishing, they're like, that's it, you're like the Black Bill dance. So like you need to name your page Black Bill Outdoors. I'm like, it's kind of got a ring to it. And they're like, yeah, do that. And then, honestly, that was a name that I had ran with for a long time. And then you start to become a little more professional, and I'm just starting to get like mentioned by a couple of these people within the hunting and fishing industry, and I got tired of people thinking that my name was Bill. Like, congrats, Bill for this, congrats, Bill. I'm like, man, listen, like, first off, my name's DJ Jones. Like, Black Bill was a nickname from a bunch of local high school friends that had started calling me, the Black Bill Dance, as to opposed to knowing how much I knew about fishing and actually going out there and catching fish. So then I think I want to say in 2000, either 19 or 20, I decided to make the switch to something that's, I guess it's not as great, but, I decided to switch it to Jones Outdoors, just something basic, because I never really felt like I had the one thing that I should have that hit me that should be like a name that's resonated. I may switch it up again in the future if I find that thing, or I feel like I need to be a little bit more professional to Jones Outdoors and have something a little bit more distinction other than just Jones Outdoors. So I feel like when you look in the hunting and fishing industry, you just got a lot of people that are just their first name and last name and outdoors, and bam, like it's so common, it's so very basic, but it's like I've never had anything that I feel like should be, that's it. Like, I got to trademark that. I got to have this. I got to have that, so who knows? Who knows what I might change it to, but that's just basically, how the whole thing got started. I've always hunted, I always fished, there's pictures of me sitting on top of my dad's dog box when I'm probably 1 or 2 years old, trying to hold a Beagle Walker, puppy. Pictures of me, basically almost in diapers, holding a cane pole with a catfish with this little shit-eating grin on my face, and I got on the open-toed sandals that you usually see your favorite cook at the cookout wearing while he's on the grill, and just stuff like that has been my entire life. It's just been like hunting and fishing, but I won't say I've never thought of pursuing it how I have, but I will ultimately say God has blessed me with a lot of opportunities, and I feel like he's blessed me with the ability to capture an audience and to be honest and authentic, and people like my content. So I feel like it would be selfish of me to not use, my attention making abilities and my hunting and fishing abilities to spread the word to people about hunting and fishing, and, why we should be hunting and fishing, because I always would tell people, the outdoors is for everybody. And that's just been how this whole thing has started in 1994 when I was born, I guess, if you really want to talk about it that way. But, as opposed to social media, you can probably say it originated back in 2012.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask this, knowing your background, what kind of difference and how big of a difference in the outdoors industry is there from Florida and Minnesota?
Very, 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 very big difference. It's a different culture. It's different geographically when it comes down to the weather. I always like to tell people that I've had the best of both worlds. So, I've been able to hunt and fish and the extreme southern heat down in Florida, but I've also been able to endure like the extreme cold of being up north, and I rely on that a lot when it comes to hunting and fishing. I feel like, honestly, sometimes like it's what separates me from most people, because they've never had those experiences. But when you get around some of those folks that have been around different places geographically, and they've hunted, they fished, or they've trained or done anything that requires athleticism in those parts, like, you can tend to pick those folks out as opposed to those who've never done it, who've never had it. And I had no idea how much of great condition I was in until I got out, to do my mule deer hunt, with the My World Outdoors crew last September. And I was getting frustrated because I'm waiting on, Brandon and JC and the guys to get up and down the hills, because like I'm in better shape than them, and waiting for them to go up and down the hill, waiting for them. I'm at the back, but I want to be at the front, but I'm in the back, but I want to be at the front. And it's just great. It's just great. When I first started thinking about that, I never really thought about being in the two different geographic locations, like, is in knowing that that's an asset, like being in the extreme heat and the extreme cold. So you know how to adapt to both, which means you should be versatile and adapting to whatever environment you have to fish in today, adapting to whatever environment you have to hunt in today. And I love it. I love it. A lot of growing pains. I will say that, over the course of the past few years, like bass fishing in Florida is different than bass fishing in Minnesota. Deer hunting in Florida is different than deer hunting in Minnesota. Fall in Florida is different than fall in Minnesota, and just the whole thing was just at first it took me a couple of years to adjust because I wasn't really tracking and monitoring and making the changes that I need to make. And then I started getting on YouTube and started watching a lot of YouTube hunting and fishing videos and starting to see what some of these other guys are doing and adapting. And it definitely ended up, helping out, tremendously. And that's when I could honestly notice a big shift in my content, that I'm going out and I'm catching more fish. I'm going hunting and now I'm seeing more deer. And now I'm killing more deer. Now I'm doing more than what I was than when I first started over the course of the past decade, so to say.
Absolutely. And being up in Minnesota, have you done any ice fishing?
Yes. Last year was my first spring I committed to ice fishing. I'd always have people who wanted to see me get out there on the ice and drill a hole because they think it's funny that the boy from Florida is going to go out there, and it's whatever the temperature is, whether it be 10 below or, right at 0 or 10 or 12 degrees. We want to see you drill a hole in the ice, drop down a Vexstar and see if you can't catch a walleye or bluegill or crappie or a pike. And it was very frustrating, but the most, like, the hardest thing was, I will say, was being cold. I love my open water. I love the bass fish in open water. So I love that. But like when you got me on top of the ice and I got to drill a hole and drop the Vexstar down to see what's down there. And it's like, all right, nothing here. I got to move 15, 20 yards there, drill another hole, drop it down, see what's here. And you're doing that over 30, 40 times, out on a single lake, and you're trying not to, step on people's toes, which I learned ice fishing that there are a lot of people that will just jump right in the crowds, and you'll have like, ice houses and ice castles and stuff like that. And all these permanent fixtures and stuff like that they'll have out in the water. And it was also a bit of a safety risk too, being new, because I never knew anything about like the weight and ice, and like trying to pay attention to a guy who has like a 1-ton truck. Then he's got his ice castle that sleeps about 9-10 people in there, which that's a lot of weight. And then you got another person that's doing the same thing that's right by him, and another person is doing the same thing. And it's like, you got to be careful. It's like, it doesn't matter how much ice is on there, it could still be dangerous, it could still be deadly. And the ice can shift and change overnight on certain bodies of water. And it was fun. Last year I had some great experiences. I got out on Lake Superior once and I caught my first walleye on the ice ever on Lake Superior. I was really proud of that. I tried night fishing a couple of times and caught a few crappie on a lake that was very hot at that point in time. I was very proud of that. And I primarily caught bluegill and pike on most of the lakes that I went to last year. But it's a very, very, very big learning process, and I was somewhat frustrated at times because it's like, you got to drive, get out there. And I'm not one of these folks that has like a sled or a fool or anything like that, so I have to pull everything manually. Like I got to, reach down, dig deep. And if there's a hole that's maybe 250 yards away that I saw using that Navionics application that somebody might have marked maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, that was a great spot for crappie or something like that, that I'll just go check out. I got to pull that for 2-3 feet of snow, 200, 300, 400 yards. So I'm sweating just to get out there. And then when I get there, and then I'm cool. And then depending on the wind, I'm trying to set up my Clan Bigfoot XL, which is a very, very big pop-up, ice house at the thermal. Trying to get that down, and then getting, the buddy heater set up on top of drilling the holes and hoping the fish are there, and learning that, before I start putting anything up, I should obviously, drill a hole, drop down there, see if I can get a bite. Because before I first started, I would just get out there, throw it up, and then just sit there hoping the fish would come through. And it's like, nope, no man's land. There's nothing, there's nothing coming through. But ice fishing was fun last year. I'm definitely looking forward to getting back out there again this year and bringing the family. It's gonna be fun.
Absolutely. Being from North Carolina, it's a very foreign concept to me. Yeah. And it seems very strange, but it fascinates me at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So let's pause this for just a second. I need to change something here for my audio, and I don't know what it's going to do to the podcast. So bear with me for just a second.
Okay.
All right. All right. Let's see if this is any better. Yeah, man. So let's talk about the video that everybody is talking about right now. So yeah, so kind of walk us through like the basic story. You don't have to give us every single detail. I definitely want more details on certain parts, but yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
let us know.
just feel free to stop me if you want, more details on certain parts or you got questions. But and I want to thank you for still. I know you were one of the first people to reach out to me about talking about it, and I know I'm still kind of feeling like I kind of need to give it a little bit more time to kind of think about it and kind of process everything because I was still struggling with the screams and stuff like that, and then just like things that the kid had said to me while we were out there on the water and when I got him up on land and just his dad's demeanor. But I just want to say
For
thank
sure.
you. I appreciate you for giving me that respect because there's some people that that have been trying to rush me to like to talk about and do all that kind of stuff, and everybody
Absolutely.
processes these types of situations and stuff like this differently. And I'm usually quick about stuff like that, but it was my first traumatic experience on the water, so it's like it was different. It was different than the other experiences that I've had where I'm used to being in those types of situations out on a street or in a home or in the gym or at work, but it was just on the water. So I feel like that was something that was prolonging me being able to process that. But so July 5th, I decided to go out, to Duluth, Minnesota to go chase some walleyes up on the St. Louis River. I was watching a bunch of those Superior Angling Company videos, which is a guy who I've honestly learned a lot from watching his ice fishing videos and some of his other fishing videos that's within my area because he's a great fisherman for our area and he definitely knows how to find the fish. And I'm not like some of these other local guys where if there's another guy that's better than me at something that's within my area, I'm not gonna hate. Like I'm gonna continue to respect you and honestly I'm gonna learn what I can from you. If there's everything I can do to help you, I'm gonna obviously do that. So shout out to him. But yeah, July 5th, I decided to go up to the Boy Scout landing after watching one of his videos. And I get there, and you kayak fish, so you're pretty familiar with like the process of getting out, getting rods ready, and cameras and all that stuff ready, and putting on your life vest or PFD, whichever term a lot of people may know that by. And as I'm doing that, there's a married couple that's sitting on the dock, fishing, and there's another married couple that's maybe 15, 20 yards away from the dock, and they're sitting up on a little sandbar while their kids are standing right behind him as the dad's fishing and stuff like that. And I could hear the kid that I eventually ended up rescuing later in the day swimming by his dad, while his dad was in the sailboat. So then get the kayak out, ready to go. I get in the water, fishing, and I can't remember what had happened at that first 10, 15 minutes I was out there. But I was just sitting there. I didn't have any bites, and all of a sudden I felt like this slight little bump on my line, and I set the hook because I didn't know is this a giant walleye. Like what is this going to be? Is it a bass? Is it bluegill? Is it crappie? Because you can catch just about anything on the river up here. And it felt like I was hung. I'm like, what did I hook into? And you know how when you get hung sometimes, like you'll grab it and you'll see if you can lift it or move it or you'll bob it up and down. I did that same exact thing, but it was something I had never felt before. So I put my rod tip down a little bit just to see if I could kind of like, reel it, get a little bit more slack. And then my rod like dips a little bit further, but it like two big dips. So I'm like, I either hooked into a log or a branch or something that's being like, drug and pulled away right now in the current. And then it hit me. I'm like, I'm not hung. I may have hooked into a sturgeon. And this is all like I have it all. I have it all on my GoPro. So I'm probably like a crazy man out there talking to myself. But I'm like, guys, I'm just talking to my GoPro because I was waiting to hopefully release that video. I'm like, guys, like I just hooked into a sturgeon, like my third cast on the St. Louis River. So I'm like reeling, and this thing is like pulling me away from the current to the left, like in a way. And I'm like, oh my God, wow. So then I called my girlfriend, who didn't answer the phone because she was sleeping. So she didn't answer. And I just remember at that point in time, I was able to look up. And this is one of the things that I think, God was, having me pay attention to. I remember looking up at that point in time after I had tapped my phone because I tapped my Apple Watch because she didn't answer. I could look up and I could see the dad pulling his anchor up as the kid is still sitting right there in front of him. But I didn't think anything of it, so I'm still fighting this. Could have been a sturgeon. I don't know. Could have been a log. Could have been a branch. Could have been something that I had that was just flowing down the river. And still going. All of a sudden, I hear, who's watching that kid? And I look up and the kid is like maybe 50, 60 yards away from where he was originally at with his dad. And I couldn't see his dad because his dad was like off and behind me a couple 100 yards. And there was a couple that was there in their boat. And both the married couples like, oh yeah, his dad is right over there. So then I don't pay any attention because I heard that right. Like his dad's right over there. Yeah, right. Cool. And they get in their boat, they speed right past the kid. Pew, like gone. Pew. And I'm still like talking to my GoPro and I'm reeling. And then that's when I heard like the scream. And I look up, this kid's like maybe now 300-400 yards away from me. Just about. And when he screamed on that GoPro, it sounded like he was right next to me. And it's like, I don't know how much experience you have with the GoPro or listeners have with the GoPro, but it's like, I don't have any additional, mic attachments like from Rode or any of those other like fancy products. Like that is all literally from just the sound of his voice screaming that loudly coming all the way downwind, like that loudly. And I remember telling myself, like, I just got to pull off enough line so that way I can pop it because this fish is going to instantly take whatever slack that I'm getting out right now anyway. So I didn't have any scissors that I had that I could think about at that point in time, although they were right behind me in my bag. And I didn't think about doing any of that. So I just pulled enough slack that I could and I bit it. And then I just locked in and just started like paddling to him because he's just bobbing up and down in the water. And at this point, even in the video, I don't know how much or how many times you've watched it because I've watched it so many times I've lost count. But you can see that there's about 3 or 4 houses that's left before he gets around the bend because he's already maybe 150 to 200 yards away from the shore. So he's 150 to 200 yards away from the shore. And then he's 400 yards away from the nearest person that's in any type of boat or any type of vessel, which was me. And this honestly, this is another thing too, where I say, as I get older in my faith, I like try to listen to God as much as I can when he puts like certain feelings and certain things on me. Months ago, I'm in my gym like I usually am 3 to 5 days a week. I've been using the Concept 2 rower that's been in the gym. And I would always go as fast as I can for 5 minutes. Just because we'd have it has like this little timer that's on there where it's like, you can roll 500 meters within a certain amount of time. And it's like 2 minutes. But I always like try to roll like 1,000 meters because, that was always like something that was fun to me. I'm just going to go as hard as I can for 5 minutes. I went as hard as I could and it took me 4 minutes to get to that kid. And for the life of me, for some of those folks that follow me on my Instagram account and stuff like that, they would always be like, messing with me. It's like, oh yeah, I hate that machine too. Cause I have a love-hate relationship with that Concept 2 rower. Like I hate you because you kill everything in me, but I love the results of my body whenever I'm done. I have that relationship with that machine, but like I felt like I couldn't not do it. You know what I'm saying? It's like I felt like I couldn't ignore that machine. Like I don't know why I was just so drawn to it, and I had been hitting that machine for months and months and months, like just doing it, going back and forth. And then when I think back to that situation, like that was God preparing me for that date. Like months in advance, like not even thinking about it, because I like thinking to myself too, like, imagine if I didn't hit that machine, like how much longer would it have taken me to get to that kid? Yeah. Could that scream been his last scream as he, inhaled some water and his lungs started getting full? And then I'm in another situation where he's got to have CPR on him, and I still have to get him and hold him and carry him and then try to roll and get all the way back to shore. But I'm luckily for both of us, we weren't in that situation. So I get to him, and the first thing I asked him, are you all right? He's like, no. And I asked him if he needed help going back to shore. He's like, yes. And he just starts like almost like hyperventilating and screaming and saying he needs to find his dad. Like he needs help. Like, I'm like, listen, like your dad's back over there, not even knowing where he was at. I'm just trying to instantly comfort him as quickly as I could. And he starts like grabbing the side of my kayak. And I know you have kayak fishing experience, and some of the listeners do, and some of the listeners probably don't. But in kayaks, like especially a sit-in kayak like what I was sitting on, or any kayak in general, if you lean or have too much weight to one side, the first thing you're going to start doing is start taking on water. I knew this kid was small. Like he wasn't small enough for me to try to lift him up out of the water and onto my lap so I could row with him back to shore. It wasn't going to work out. And I felt like I didn't have a lot of time to think of something, but in my mind, I should have felt like I had all the time in the world to think of something to get this kid back to shore. And what I thought of and came up with first was, I need to ask him, can he continue holding on like this? Because I don't know how much he has left in him. Because he's been fighting the current for God knows how long. He's been in the water for God knows how long. And we're clearly 200 yards away from shore minimum. And that's a long ways when you're fighting the current and you're a 6-year-old kid trying to hold on to this random stranger's kayak, And I just remember building this confidence, like telling him, like, man, you're such a great swimmer. You're doing great. Like, do you think you can keep holding on? He's like, yeah, I keep doing it. Great, man. Like, you're doing such a great job. You're doing such a great job. And I'm talking to him as I'm rowing. So I remember I was going to try to row backwards at first because the wind was blowing me back out. And the way the position that he was on my kayak, I couldn't necessarily row forward because my right paddle would have hit him in the back of the head every time I was trying to go.
Right.
So now I'm in a situation of where I can't even row regularly with him on the side of my kayak. So I was fighting that demon too. I'm like just telling myself in my head, like, just keep going. This kid's gonna hold on, like he's gonna make it. We're gonna make it to shore. So I just remember talking to him, and like, he couldn't even tell me how old he was at that point in time too. And I thought that was kind of crazy. But I remember like that's one of the first stages of hypothermia. It's like it's memory loss and stuff like that, lack of time, lack of information. And for kids, hypothermia sets in faster than it would for adults because their body size and temperature isn't regulating that much heat. And his face, I'll never forget the look he had in his eyes, his face, and the amount of panic that he had because his snot was just coming down out of his nose, like not like I don't know, like it was just one of those things where I don't think there's a person alive that would have looked at that kid and thought that he didn't need serious help and help like right now, as soon as possible. So I get him all the way up to the dock, and he didn't even have enough strength to pull himself up out of the water onto the dock, which I had to edit. I had to edit so much out of the video for it to meet like the requirements and stuff like that on Instagram, but he couldn't even pull himself up on the dock. So I had to get next to him, grab him on his vest and try to push him up onto the dock. And I'm asking him because he was telling me the entire time, he's like, I'm cold. I'm so cold. Like that was weighing on me at, that point in time too. And I'm just trying to make sure that we're doing everything right. And I'm getting him to shore like as quickly as possible. And, then he's like talking about his dad. I was like, I don't know why my dad left me. Like I was screaming for him and he was just ignoring me and I was screaming as loud as I could and I don't know why. And then that was like bothering with me too, because like he's bringing out the anger and frustration in me because like I'm like,
yeah,
I'm angry too, kid, but like I need to focus on getting you to safety first, and then we'll handle iron out a lot of the other stuff later.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to kind of touch on how good of a job that you did at calming him down. And what was it? You said at the beginning of the podcast that you work with emergency situations and stuff. So was that where that training kind of kicked in, or was it like just fatherly instinct, or what was it that
having a background in law enforcement and stuff like that, and then working at the largest trauma hospital in northern Minnesota, and been doing that for the course of a couple of years now. Like, I've been thrown into a bunch of high pressure situations where I'm dealing with grown adults who are literally grown men who are 6'6", 6'7", 300 pounds, who are fighting, withdrawals. And you're having to talk to somebody. In some cases, I'm talking to adults who have the mental capacity of a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old. And what I've learned in my experience of these critical situations, we can't listen just to have a response. We have to listen to understand, and we have to communicate enough for that individual to understand, not from our level of comprehension, but from their level of comprehension. So essentially, it's like I can't talk to, a 6-year-old like he's 30 years old and expect him to understand everything I'm saying. I can't talk to a 30-year-old like a 6-year-old and expect him to understand everything that I'm saying. There's so much that goes into kinetics and the communication and the critical thinking and safety that, like, I work with people at that hospital that save lives every day. Every single day I work with, like, doctors that save lives, nurses that save lives, everything, EMS, Mayo Clinic, like, literally everybody under the sun, and constantly being thrown in those situations at work, like as a job. Like, to me, I won't say it's the easiest job, but you kind of get, you kind of get used to it. You kind of get used to being thrown in those situations. And I'm the type of person when in those situations, like, I'm not going to sit in the back and wait for something to happen. I'm going to make something happen, because I feel like the faster you can get a situation resolved, the better the outcome is going to be for everybody that's involved. And what I've learned and when these situations get prolonged, that's when you have some of the more serious accidents or injuries, and even sometimes death, may occur. And in that situation, I knew no matter what, I had to get this kid calm, and I have to get him to shore. And I got to make sure that we start getting him warmed up, and I got to contact 911. And luckily, we got him to the right campsite. I get there, and there's been situations before, too, that I've seen on the internet where, I've seen where a person of color has went to a random person's house to seek help, and they've been, shot and killed by the homeowner, or law enforcement shows up and they've been, attacked or hurt or harassed. They died because, instead of trying to figure out, if this person is a suspect or what are they doing, like, they needed to have been helping that person, and I didn't have to go through that. Like,
sure.
literally, in that video, when you see me, come up to that dock with this kid who's not even my kid, he didn't even ask me any questions like, do you know this kid? Who is this kid? I just walk up and I say, hey, do you guys have any towels? I just rescued this kid off the middle of the river. And he's like, I forgot what he said, but it's in the video. I want to say he said something along the lines of, yeah, right here. Yeah, right up here. There's a man right up here to get you that stuff. And instantly they started helping, which, ended up helping me, kind of backtrack and try to start looking back on the water for his father. And this kid was definitely afraid of me calling 911. Like, that was something he was so adamant about. Like, please don't call 911. Please don't call. I'm like, when I was 6 years old, I love when people that called 911, because it gave me a chance to see a cop or, or a firefighter or, EMS with an ambulance driver and stuff like that. So you could see all the bells and whistles, And he was just very adamant about, like, not calling 911. And I never really understood why, and I still probably won't understand why. But then one of the guys that was there, the same guy that had the towels, while he's drying the kid off, he brought some to my attention that I forgot. But there were 2 people last year that drowned in that same exact spot on the river, which was a father who was attempting to save his daughters, where he ended up saving one, but the other one ended up dying. So there was 2 deaths that had occurred on that same exact spot in the river last year. And I'd almost forgot, about that entire, event. And he's asking me where the dad is, and I'm like trying to look back, and finally we still see him. He's still hundreds of yards away from us and where we're at on a sailboat, and he hops in his lund and he goes around and he picks the dad up, and EMS and law enforcement beat them there. So I'm talking to the 911 dispatcher and explaining everything to her, and obviously she did a great job of getting the first responders directions on how to get me. And I just remember standing in the road and waving so they can see me, and then they came down and I just started pointing at the house, and they got out and asked me, was I the one that called the RP, which is a term we like to use, reporting party or reporting person. And yeah, and then they end up talking to the kid, and then they're like telling me like, thank you, for getting to him when you did, because that situation could have been extremely bad. Because like, they repeated it. We had 2 people drown in that river last year, same exact spot. So this is when the anger and frustration really started setting in, was when the dad got to shore. He had one of those types of, what's the word I'm looking to use right now to describe it? I want to use the proper adjective. He had one of those medieval time, like, court gesture type of UK type of accents, kind of, but you could kind of tell that he was a strange or a weird character. And I edited this part out of the video, but he walks up behind that deck area there, and the first thing he says, as he puts his hands on his hips like this, folks at home, I look like, if you're a guy, I look like your wife after she asked you to take out the trash 3 times a day and you didn't, so then she stands there and she puts her hands on the hips. Or if you're a kid, when your mom told you chores to do by the time she got home and you didn't do them, and she's standing there and the first thing she does is put her hands on, like, he done one of those types of gestures for the folks at home. And he goes, I suppose introductions are in order. And I'm like, what in the hell is this guy talking? Like what? And I'm thinking to myself, if I knew I left my kid in the middle of the river like that, like, forget you, and everybody else is there. I'm running to my kid to hug and console my kid. Absolutely. And to making sure my kid is okay. And he had there was no, sense of urgency or anything about him. And then he walks up and he introduces himself and he shakes my hand, and I'll never forget the first words he said. He's like, it sounds like he got nervous as he's pointing his finger at him. I'm like, let me get this straight. You're a grown man pointing your finger at your 6-year-old child because you left him in the water because you're on your sailboat after you pulled up anchor? But I was like, this isn't the time or the place. You're not in uniform. This isn't something for you to try to investigate. Like, like, just relax. And I just remember doing that. And he tells me, oh, well, he knows to swim to shore. We've been in this situation before. He's a little bit smaller, so the current takes him a little bit faster. And I'm thinking to myself, is this guy telling me about, like, is he telling me that this has happened, prior to today too? And then that's when he had the biggest red flag, where he's saying, like, thank you for saving me of such a big hassle, because I've had to pick him up and to walk him to shore, and it just takes such a long, long time. And thank you again, like, and 10,000 times more. I would love to stand and talk with you, but it seems like I'm needed elsewhere. And he takes a few steps and he stops and he pauses and he sticks his pointing finger, index finger in the air, and he goes, but we may be seeing each other again in the future. I'm like, what? No. And yeah, right. And then EMS is looking at me with like the same look. And from what I don't know if this part is in the video or if I had edited it out, but the officer that walked up on the stairs first and had looked at us while we were talking from the Duluth Police Department, he looked at the dad and goes, I remember you. We went to law enforcement skills together. So, right. So at some point in time, he had to have had an education enough to go to law enforcement school and to go through police officer training. I don't know if he made it all the way through or if he failed or if he passed or whatever his story may be. But, they teach us about emergency situations, on land and on water and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure that he's well aware of, like, the dangers of, yet alone, like, water safety in general of kids. But on the St. Louis River, you left your kid. And some people, the other frustrating thing outside of the father was just seeing some of these people online that are trying to say, he wasn't going to drown. He had on a PFD. He had on a life jacket. It's like, life jackets, don't 100% stop you from drowning. Like, it's just meant to kind of help you stay alive longer while you're out there in the water. If you can't swim or you have trouble swimming, you can be a great swimmer to have on a PFD, because there are people that die that have on PFDs and lifesavers all the time.
Yeah,
And
I mean, thank God that he was wearing one.
yeah,
I mean, that's probably what kept him.
yeah.
Like, I don't think you would have been able to get to him.
Mm-mm.
And in parts of the video, it looked like the kid was, he was swimming, but he was going backwards. And I don't want to sit here and just, bash the father. I don't know what's going on there. But I will say that I got rather upset watching that video at the end of it. For sure. As a dad myself, my son is 16 months old. And I can't. I've got a 4.5-year-old nephew, and just the idea of pulling anchor while my kid is in the water. I cannot wrap my head around that. I cannot fathom that. So yeah, major takeaway that I want to kind of highlight here is thank God that you were there, and thank God that you were capable. You weren't just somebody who had no idea what to do in that situation. You were the right person to be there, and I don't think it was an accident. So I'm extremely thankful that you were the one that was there, and that you were able to handle it like you did. And I'm thankful to God and thankful to you, man.
Thank you. Yeah, that's been like one of the most, in today's time, like, you kind of wonder like how many people still have faith in Christ and have faith in God. And I saw so many people that have commented, God put you there. God had you in the right place at the right time. And it kind of like, a lot of people were saying that I was restoring their faith in humanity. Like, we're restoring my faith that, the general public, a lot of them are still, Christians, or they believe in God. And, that was great to see. And honestly, from start to finish, I like, if I weren't there and had everything on video, I still wouldn't have believed everything that happened. When I think about, God putting it on me to hit the concept to roar, for months prior to, and I still use that thing, and from my girlfriend telling me that she's got like, a feeling in her gut, that maybe I probably shouldn't go to the river, or that something's gonna happen, if I go fish the river. And then, me just having the urge of want to go, fish the river, because I'm a bass fisherman at heart. Like, and the only time you'll see me targeting something else is because I want to go try to chase a walleye or a new species, so I can become a better angler when it comes to that and to catching them, and all of that happened. And, I was able to help this kid, and it was just a blessing. And I'm happy I was there, and I was able to help him, because there was nobody else out there in a boat as far as the eye could see. And like I said before, he was maybe 2 or 3 houses away from being out of eyesight from any houses or anything. And it's just him and the curves and the rivers. Like you pointed out before, like, he was swimming, but he was going backwards. And the current was going east of where we were at. But that undercurrent was taking him, west and up the river. And a lot of people don't understand how strong those undercurrents can be. And me growing up in Florida, like, the biggest river that all my friends like to go fish and swim on is St. Mary's River and the St. John's River, and those are dangerous places. They tell you about the undercurrents all the time, because you have stories every single year, someone swimming, drowned on the river, someone swimming, drowned on the river, someone swimming, drowned on the river, and it's no secret that, you got to have water safety and respect the water at all times. But I feel like this could have been very, very, very bad. But it wasn't in this case, and I just got to keep praying. And I ask for the viewers that are listening to this if they could just pray for that young kid, that young 6-year-old, and that he's going to be okay, and that his family's going to be okay, and that the authorities are taking the proper steps necessary to ensure his safety. And I would ask for another thing or favor from the viewers and listeners that, if you're going to go out in the body of water, please have some water safety awareness, not just for yourself, but of others. You got kids that are out there swimming. I don't care how well you think you know that lake, or how many times you've went swimming in that pond or that body of water, or whatever it is. Just have water safety and water awareness, because it can all, go south in the blink of an eye. And seconds seem like minutes, and minutes can seem like hours, and hours can seem like days, and the last thing you want is somebody to have to call 911, and next thing you know, they're dragging the river looking for a body. And that's something that, you don't want to happen, and you don't want, to ever hear about it happening, but it does. And I if that's one thing that I've learned from this experience is, to take water safety serious,
Absolutely. Well, man, I want to get to a couple questions that we always ask all of our guests. At this rate, I think I'm going to have you back on to really dive into your faith a lot more. I really want to do that, but I want to be respectful of your time too. We're coming pretty close to an hour already, and we got little ways to go. So, what fishing story or memory means the most to you, man?
Well, my most favorite one will probably be me taking my daughter fishing a few weeks ago. This joker, I get her out there. My girlfriend and I took her to Walmart. She picked out her own Princess Moana pole from Disney and stuff like that. I got it all picked out, right? I wanted to bring in a kayak, but I realized I think I might not have enough room to bring out my kayak, and trying to navigate her and the fish while in my kayak might not, be the best idea right now. So I just brought her to one of my favorite spots, bank fishing, and got her worm, got her some got a bobber, and got her boots on, and she's got her jacket on, and we're fishing, and we finally catch a fish. And I'm trying to tell her, like, to watch, her bobber, and she's watching everything in the woods. She's like, Dad, look at that stick. Look at the grass. What is that on the water? Is that a lily pad? Is that a frog? Like, she's asking me like a million questions and stuff like that. And I'm just trying to tell her. I'm just trying to get her to focus on the bobber, but like this is what you get when you take a 2-year-old fishing, right? So, and her bobber is just do like bobbing up and down the water. Is getting ready to go on the water. So I'm like, okay, we gotta set the hook. And her head's like this, and then turns like this, and then I just start like helping her reel. And we get the fish in. We were out there on the water not even 15, 20 minutes max. At the max, right? We get this fish up. She's like, yay! I'm like, great job, you caught a fish. He's like, now we can go home. I'm like, what? Like, what? You just caught a fish and now you want to go home? She's like, we can go home now. And then that was the reel that I ended up putting on my I put on my Instagram from a few weeks ago, and it was just like just to see her, like, a whole ride in the back seat of the truck in her car seat. Are we gonna catch a lot of fish? I'm gonna catch a big fish. And all she's talking about is fishing, right? We get it there, we go fishing. She catches her one fish, and she's, yay! Now we can go home. We can go home now. And I had to talk her into, like, grabbing the bobber so we could take a picture with the fish, and we did that, and she got home because apparently she wanted to, watch Peppa Pig, get some fruit snacks, and have some of her Welch's juice and stuff like that. And you can't always have your cake and eat it too. I had fun with her last hunting season, so I guess we'll just have to wait. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
All right. So whenever you are going out fishing with somebody, what are your typical conversations centered around? What are y'all usually talking about?
Well, I'm gonna say this pretty loud because I go with my girlfriend. She's in another room. When I typically go fishing with my girlfriend, my conversations are typically always about what kind of snacks did we bring or what kind of fish we might catch. No, I'm not on the phone. I'm kidding. I'm still on the phone. Did you hear her?
No,
Oh, you can't hear her. Oh, she's standing in the hallway now. Like, you get me ask me on the phone. But typically the person I go the most is my girlfriend, and we're always talking about like what we can catch or what we should expect to catch off of a certain body of water. There's certain lakes that I'll take her to that I know that are going to be certain species that we're going to catch. So I got specific lakes that I'll take her to for bass fishing. I have specific lakes that I'll take her to go for bluegill. Well, you're down south, so I can say brim, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So I say that to some people up here, and they look like I'm talking to them, as in like the Da Vinci Code, or I'm talking some secret language that they've never heard of before. But for my northern viewers, you guys call them bluegill or sunnies and stuff like that. So typically that's what the conversation is going to be about. And I try to break down what I'm seeing as an angler so that way she can understand why we're doing certain things and why we're using certain tactics on certain times of the year. It's like, I'm getting her to understand the concept now when we go fishing of looking for weed edges and places that have structure and cover for those brim or those bluegill to be at whenever we go bluegill fishing or brim fishing or sunny fishing. And when we go bass fishing, I'm taking her to certain places where, like, if we're getting out and it's around noon, we're going for places that are going to have shade, like under the lily pads, under the dock, boats, etc. and stuff like that. And those are typically the conversations that I'll have while I'm out on the water. And if it's with her, she's either usually asking me and I'm breaking down the stuff about why we're using what we're using. And then her latest question, or the question she likes to ask, like, did I bring any snacks? Or get all this other stuff whenever we come. But she's a hoot. I love her to death. I love bringing her fishing with me, and she's my fishing partner, and she's always down to go fishing. So I'm not going to complain too much about bringing her.
absolutely. That is awesome. All right. So with all of our guests, we always close things out with a segment that we call "What's Your Favorite?" It's self-explanatory. I'll ask you a few different ask you your favorite in a few different categories, and we are going to get that started right after this.
Oh boy, do I want to do this?
Savior Outdoors gives me confidence that no matter what happens, what I take on the water is coming back home with me. With retrieval devices for fishing rods, bow fishing bows, action cams, and even one that can be attached to your other gear, they've got your whole arsenal covered. When one of these devices goes in a drink, it releases a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back, and the pressure-sensitive filter means that you don't have to worry about rain or dips in the water while landing a fish. At SaviorOutdoors.com, that's SAVUR Outdoors.com, you can use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% and try them for yourself.
All right. So to get us started off, what is your favorite scripture?
That's always a tough one because I always feel like when it comes down to the Bible, everything that's in there is equally important. But I must say, when the Lord tells us, to grab your bow and quiver and go into the field and get some wild game, for me, that has to be my favorite verse.
That is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't have I think this is the episode that we have talked about hunting the most.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. I'm not much of a hunter myself, but I love eating the game. I love the sport of hunting. I just love the action of hunting.
Hey, listen, you can't eat the horns, and eating is probably like my second most thing about actually going out hunting after getting an animal is eating the animal. So
for sure. All right. So what about a particular story from the Bible? Is there one of those that's your favorite?
I'm David, so I have to say David and Goliath. That has to be my favorite story. So
absolutely. All right. So what is your favorite fish to catch?
Has to be a Florida strain largemouth bass. Has to be.
Awesome. Now, what about your favorite fish to fish for?
Has to be largemouth bass, Florida strain.
All right. In the last episode, we went 3 for 3. Are we going to do it this time too? What is your favorite fish to eat?
Freshwater, it has to be a 3-way tie between tilapia, catfish, and I will have to say walleye has become one of my favorites since I've been up north in Minnesota.
Okay, absolutely. What about saltwater?
Ooh, I'm not that much of a fan of saltwater, food. But if I would have to say saltwater, it would have to be a tie between flounder and trout.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, so being down in Florida, you get to eat wild tilapia, um, which I am assuming is leaps and bounds better than what you're going to buy in the store. Um, so that I I might would actually agree with you on the tilapia if I were catching wild tilapia. So I will say I'm not a huge fan of it whenever I'm buying it frozen from the store,
Yeah.
but yeah, I, that's something that is really really crazy to me is being down in Florida. You get to catch fish that. So I grew up like studying aquarium fish. Like I was like I had all the books. I had multiple aquariums in my bedroom, and so like aquarium fish was my thing. And now I'm seeing like people in Florida like catching the fish that I was like studying about
Dreaming about, yeah.
the aquarium trade, which
Mhm.
is really interesting. But yeah, man. So since we're talking about food, and you mentioned it earlier, what is your favorite fishing snack?
A lot of people are probably gonna hate me when I say this, but it's like I don't like to eat when I go hunting or fishing because I feel like it takes away from my focus and the 20-30 seconds that I might have to, try to get something to drink or get something to eat, I could have caught a fish. But usually back in the day when I would go fishing and bring snacks out, it would usually be Hidden Valley Ranch sunflower seeds.
Okay,
I'd,
absolutely.
I'd pack them in and just go to town.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm really bad about packing food and stuff to drink and then never touching
Yep.
it. So it's that's I try to force myself to remember. Like sometimes I'll even set a reminder on my phone. Hey, drink water. Hey,
Yeah.
drink water. Um, but yes. Let's see. What is your favorite body of water to fish? Now, I don't need GPS coordinates or secret spots or anything, just a generic body of water.
I would say if I'm back home in Florida, it would have to be Lake Toho. But if I'm up north in Minnesota, it would have to be Sturgeon Lake up here in Sturgeon Lake, Minnesota. Those two are my favorite bodies of water, and I say those two because they're both great fisheries. I say Lake Toho because it was the one lake where I had a friend and we went down there. We fished it once and we had great success. We didn't catch anything big, but this was back when my page and stuff was growing. So we were trying to go out and try to fish new places. And we got out there and we were actually able to have some success. We caught some 3-pounders, a couple 2-pounders. And for us, it was like great confidence builder because you fall along in the fishing community and you know how there was always a lot of beef between those who are great pond fishermen and then those that are great lake fishermen or river fishermen and stuff like that. So to kind of get that monkey off the back of being only great in ponds where you know what to do and you know what to throw, as opposed to getting out on a lake and having different changing variables and there's a ton of more pressure that's going on and you have to actually figure out what the fish want to catch them. That was always a big confidence boost. Yeah. So if I had to say overall, number one, it'd probably be Lake Toho down in Florida.
Okay, absolutely. And I don't want you to give away too many secrets, so you can say you don't want to if you don't want to. But what is your favorite lure to throw?
What'd you drop? It was just the fan. Oh. Yeah. My fishing partner dropped the fan, so that was the whole. Could you hear that one?
Yeah, I could hear that.
Oh, okay. So you could hear that one. Yeah. But my favorite lure to throw, I would have to say it's a tie between a crankbait and chatterbait. And I love both of those baits because they have two great purposes, but they fish very similar. I love the vibration of reeling both of those baits. You can work both of them fast. You can work both of them slow. You can work both of them shallow. You can work both of them deep. But I just love the feeling of reeling. And you know when that vibration stops, you've got to fish, basically, or you've hooked into something.
Right.
Then you don't even have to second guess it, like to feel if there's anything there. You can just, because I use ducket rods, and that's what I use a lot. And I have that Ghost series that they first came out with that I've been using since like 2014 or 15. And that would be one of my great combinations I would like to throw. Loose speed spool, 7-1 gear ratio, and I'd get me some fluoro or some mono around 8 to 10 pounds and just burn some of those ponds up or burn some of those banks up. And then the minute you don't feel that vibration anymore, all you gotta do is just set the hook, and I would watch that ducket just bend over. And I'm like, oh, that's all she wrote. And then just keep reeling. Because I caught my PB in Florida, throwing a chatterbait on a ducket rod on my loose speed spools. I forget what version it was. Oh, I think it was I had the loose speed spool Mark Rose edition, which was a silver one that had like the blue handles and stuff like that on it. And I caught my PB on the chatterbait, doing that. So I'm gonna forever have love for those two baits.
Absolutely. I'm a crankbait fanatic myself. Do you prefer to fish a crankbait with or without a rattle?
I have to say with.
Okay.
I have to say with.
I will say with 99% of the time, but there's one lake here that you can throw the exact same color, the exact same shape, and they will not bite the one with the rattle. They want it without it. So
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about that particular lake, but that's the only one that I've come across where it's like that. But yeah, man. So last but not least, what is your favorite time of year to fish?
Being from Florida, I love sight fishing and I love bed fishing. So it has to be spring, has to be pre-spawn, because to me, there's no better feeling than walking up on a giant in less than 2, 3, 4 feet of water. You can watch that joker react to your every single twitch of whatever bait you're using. I know I would always be havoc, get one of those missile baits, D-bombs or destroyers, one of those types of baits, or I'd have a yum dinger in black and blue, or I'd have a green pumpkin one, or I'd get one of those rage tail crawfish in either white or red. You can just flip it on a bait, either flip it on a bed and just twitch it once or twice, and just watching these giant fish just go nose down, and then just boom. Like, to me, there's no greater feeling. And I have some people that are down south and they hate bed fishing. They say, well, bed fishing is, doesn't require any skill or experience. I'm like, bull crap. Like, you know how many fish I've had to work on a bed because, everybody and their sister has thrown a bait at them within the past 2 or 3 days in pressure ponds or lakes or bodies of water. And some people just have this phenomena thinking that, like, you could automatically catch your PB if you just roll up on the right place at the right time, on the right lake or body of water. And for me, I just kind of feel like it's a low blow or it's a punch to the gut. But I love fishing when those fish are on beds because it's just so much fun. And number one, you don't have that opportunity all year. You don't. Like, it's a very short window, so you got to take advantage of it. And I love and I take pride in knowing that between February to March every year in my home state of Florida, you got all the major bass fishing series that are coming through. And people are catching 8, 9, 10, 7s. Like, and I just love even 6s and 5s. Like, I love just watching people just wreck fish bed fishing. Because to me, that's just like my excitement. And the most exciting thing for me is to watch people do that. And I've also lost what would have been my PB sight fishing, I want to say the spring of 2020, and that's on my video too. And Had a
Is that
rookie move.
is that the shopping cart fish?
Yeah.
I was just watching that video before the interview.
Oh my God. And even then, man, that one there was just flight got delayed coming back up to Minneapolis to come home, and had a buddy who works for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and he's one of my former high school, classmates and teammates for football. It's like, hey, dude, I just caught this chunk at this pond. You need to go check it out before you go. And this is literally the night before I got to leave. So I send this kid a message back like, hey, like I'm leaving tomorrow morning and I won't be able to do it. Middle of the night, wake up, flight gets delayed, loads up the truck, heads out there. And it took me forever to get that fish to bite, but I finally found the jig that fish would react to. And it reacted to the one jig that I had that was black and blue, and it had two of the rattles on the top. The only one it reacted to out of everything I threw at that fish. I tried all my best moves, nothing. That one was the only one that worked. And I had just got that setup from a friend, and I was kind of wishing that I would have hooked into it with a different setup that had braid, because I was so worried about that fish getting caught up in that shopping cart and wrapped around that branch that I was like, I can't let it get there. I can't let it get there. I can't let it get there. And then that led to me trying to pull the line and pulling it right out of the fish's mouth. And the deal was with that fish, my PB was a 7-1. Like, it was a 7-1 that I called in chatterbait. That fish looked like it could have ate my 7-1. Like, legitimately. It looked like it could have ate my 7-1, no problem. And even the buck that I caught off of that bed was maybe 5-6 pounds.
Yeah.
Because the video I uploaded of the buck was freaking huge.
That was a nice fish. And the one that you lost, the mouth on that thing was just
huge. I know.
Massive.
I know. And honestly, that was one of the last opportunities I had to go bed fishing down in Florida for the past 2 years, because I haven't been able to go do the work and stuff like that, and then with the kids, and so I have been able to do it. So that one's always going to be the one that's going to haunt me forever, because I would have probably had a double digit, I want to say, or at least damn near close to it, but or what they call in Florida is a trophy catch, because I don't know if you guys do that up with Bass Pro Shops. Do you guys do that there too?
We do like the citations. I don't remember up in Virginia it's called a citation fish. I don't remember something along that line though. Like it may be trophy that they call it. I don't remember the terminology that they use, but they have a program like that through the Fish and Wildlife Service.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. I was hoping you guys did, because I know down in Florida we call it the Florida Trophy Catch System, which is at that point in time, it may have changed now. This may have been a few years ago, but it's a Florida Trophy Catch System where when you catch a fish above 8 pounds, you take a picture, you send the GPS coordinates, you show a picture of it with the weight on the scale, and you enter that into the MyFWC website. Then you would then automatically get entered and receive a free $100 Bass Pro Shops gift card.
Okay.
So that would have been my gift card.
Gotcha.
10 years in the making almost. So it happens.
Yeah, man. So we're going to start winding down. So kind of let us know what's coming up. What's coming up next for D Jones Outdoors?
Hey, I know we've talked about it before. I love to hunt. So I only fish until I can hunt again. And anybody and everybody that knows me, there's a point in every summer where the rods go away from me and I just get into full-on whitetail mode. My rods don't do nothing but collect dust until the following spring up here in Minnesota. But I don't really have too much planned. I got a lot of people that are still asking me about, this me rescuing the kid. They want to talk about it and do stuff like that. And I'm just looking forward to getting some closure on the situation, with the kid, hopefully in the future, if I ever get to see him again. If not, I'm just going to ask God, to just keep his angels wrapped around him and the family. And I'm going to just do my best, continue to take care of myself and take care of my family, keep pumping out videos and all that content that some of the people like and some of the people don't like that I put out there on my profile. And drink my whiskey every now and then, keep things in order with the lovely lady down the hall down there, and keep getting right with the Lord as best I can. And that's about it for me. That's all I can think that I'm going to do in the near future.
That's awesome. And I want to give you an open floor to, shout out sponsors, say your thank yous, anybody you want to shout out, all that good stuff.
Yep. First, I just want to say thank you for having me on the show. And I also say thank you to everybody that's reached out to me and has had words of positivity and encouragement towards myself and towards the young man whose life I entered into, a couple of days ago. And when it comes to my fishing partners and stuff like that, my folks at Mystery Tackle Box and Catch Co and Under Armour Fish and Carl's Bait and Tackle, a lot of love for you guys, and I just want to say thank all of you guys for supporting me, and all the things that I've done when it comes to hunting and when it comes to fishing. And I just want to pray that God blesses each and every one of you guys. And I also just want to say I hope everybody can just be the best person that they can be, and be positive and be respectful to everybody, because you'll never know who God may have you, be that person that can help them change their lives, or they may be that person that God will have, change your life. So just always, treat people the way you want to be treated, and treat everybody with respect, and stay safe.
Preach it. Yeah, man. So, and if our listeners want to follow your adventures, want to follow your outdoors channel and stuff, let them know where we can find you.
Well, you can find me on both Instagram and YouTube at DJonesOutdoors. It's a compound word, DJONES Outdoors. And I'm on TikTok too. My name is David Jones Jr. So my TikTok content isn't so strictly related to hunting and fishing. There's all sorts of weird stuff on there, like me playing golf and guitar and other sides of me, from hunting and fishing, sides with friends, some of the stuff that we do, and me and my kids, and me drinking whiskey sometimes and singing country music and going to concerts and stuff like that. So if you're into that sort of thing, that's what I'm doing on TikTok. But other than that, that's about it.
Awesome. Well, we are going to jump into the outro here pretty soon, but DJ, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've absolutely enjoyed it. This awesome episode, and I wish you all the best, man.
Thank you.
Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle in Greensboro, North Carolina offers a wide range of products and services designed to help protect the environment and enhance the time people spend enjoying the outdoors. With an expansive year-round inventory of kayaks, SUPs, bikes, kayak fishing accessories, paddling clothing, biking accessories, and more, Get Outdoors has established itself as one of the top paddle sports and biking shops in the Southeast. They also offer a wide range of kayak safety and technique courses to get you comfortable in your new boat. They'll even get it rigged up for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or check them out at shopgetoutdoors.com. With 30 years of experience of handcrafting lures under his belt, Mr. B of Mr. B Lure Company is making high-quality spinnerbaits, buzzbaits, jigs, underspins, swim blades, and more right here in the U.S. All of his skirts are hand-tied, and all of his baits feature a baked-on powder paint, all metal components, and only Owner and Gamakatsu hooks. All of his baits come in a variety of colors, and if you purchase a bait in the Battle Shad color, 30% of the proceeds go to the Wounded Warrior Project. To see the quality for yourself, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, to place your order and use promo code FAITH_N, POD 1X10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order.
Another huge thank you to DJ for coming on the show and sharing his story with us. If you want to follow DJ's adventures, I will have all of his links in the show notes. There will also be the All Things Faith and Fishing link in the show notes. You can see the sponsor links, the merch store, website, social media, all of that good stuff. And at the time that I am recording, I am still reaching out and trying to talk about finding us a co-host for the show. So so if you are interested, please reach out. Like I've said in previous episodes, I'm going to be very picky about that, but yeah, I'm would love to hear from you. So reach out on social media or email or however you want to do that. But that is going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care and God bless.
Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by me, Cam Steele, and is sponsored by Jade's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Savior Outdoors, Atollas, and Mr. B Lure Company. Be sure to give us a rating and a review and to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care and God bless.